Hello and welcome to the Anomaly Project, the show that looks at all aspects of the paranormal and anomalous world. I'm Marcus Lowth, and as you can see, joining me again back from last week is Steve Mera. Steve, it's good to have you back. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Yeah, looking forward to tonight. I mean, do you know what? We don't get much of the paranormal subjects, and I like the paranormal. As you
Mm.
know, I mean, that's where I kind of, made my first breaking into these subjects. But, everything's UAP these days, it's hard to drag yourself out of that. But, what? Equally, if not more interesting, is the work of paranormal research that goes on, which, what? It just needs to be sort of, and I don't mean the old ghost hunting and Ghostbusters type stuff. I mean proper decent stuff. And I like the opportunity when it gets into nitty gritty stuff like this. So it's right up my alley.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating show. So tonight, joining us, we've got the author of The Lady in the Bay Window. That's William Graves. So firstly, Liam, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good, thank you guys. How are you guys?
Oh,
Doing
absolutely
good,
fine.
mate. Doing
Yep,
good.
Good,
looking forward to
good.
this.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Liam, I think the best place to start with this is if you just tell our viewers, how did you come about the property? Roughly when was that? And when did you, more importantly, first start to notice that something strange was going on?
Yeah, sure. So it started back in November 2004. So I was looking for a property with my fiance at the time, and we found quite a nice house literally up the road from here. I mean, you said you used to work in Sheffield just before the call,
Yeah.
Marcus. We found a place literally 5 minutes from here. Beautiful three-bed semi, first house, perfect. However, it fell through about a week before. So the lady pulled out. I paid all the fees. So I lost out quite a bit of money, as you can imagine. And I needed to find another place. Literally the day after, on the Friday, I had a call from my fiance at the time, who said there's a property that's just gone on sale around the corner from there, three-bed semi. It's a nice place. So I phoned the estate agents. I booked in for the Saturday. We got the viewing sorted, and I went to go and view it on the Friday. Now, as you can imagine, it's my first property. I was 19 at the time, very fresh faced. And I went to view it on the Friday, looked from outside, but it was a dark, cold November night at the time. Couldn't see much from the outside, but it looked a little bit weather worn, if that's probably the best way to put it. It needed new windows and new doors and things, but it looked like a place that I could call my home. So Saturday came around, me and my fiance went to view the property. It went really well. We loved the house inside. It was very well put out, brand new kitchen, two new bathrooms, and it was very sort of neutrally painted. It's probably the best way to put it.
Right.
And we left the house that day and said, we love it. We've got to have it. We were quite surprised to see that the offer was accepted very quick. Whether that's something to do with what's gone on for the last 20 years, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the offer was accepted pretty quick, and we'd got a moving in date within that month. So we were told we'd be in before Christmas. And that was basically how we came across this house. It's kind of fate that the house came up a day after we'd just been
Oh,
sort
right,
of
that
drawn
quick.
out the other place. Yeah.
Right. I mean, can we ask, is it a terraced? Is it
It's
just a semi-detached or
it's a three-bed semi in sort of the heart of Sheffield. It's 5 minutes away from the city centre. It's not far away from there. It's at a place
Right.
called Gleadless Town End.
Right.
In all aspects, it should be a pretty normal home. And to me, it is. I love this place. I've been here 20
yeah,
years now. I'm married. I've got my stepson who's just gone off to uni. I've got my son who's now 2 years old. My wife's downstairs with him now. It's pretty normal to us.
great. Nice family home, should we say?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But we've had well, I say the odd thing happen in the house. You've read the book, Marcus. I don't know, Steve, if you've had a chance
I've
to
not had
read
chance,
this
but
yet.
I'm
But
looking forward to it.
we've had quite a few things happen through the last 20 years that are strange, to say the least.
Yeah.
Is probably the best way to put it.
When
I
did
mean,
you first
sorry,
notice?
Marcus. Sorry,
Sorry,
buddy.
Steve.
You're right.
I was going to say, when did you first notice that something strange was taking place? I mean, I know a
Well,
few people said they saw something at the window, but when did
yeah.
you first think, oh,
Well, for me, I was literally, and I know you hear people like this all the time say, I was a skeptic, I was this, I genuinely, I was 19 years old, nothing had ever happened to me that was paranormal or strange in that sense. So after the first Crikey, it will have been first sighting was a week before we moved into the property. I was there. I didn't see it. I was looking at the same window as the person that was saying there's a lady in the window. Who is that? To my knowledge, and I know this now for fact, there was nobody in the house for 6 months prior to me moving in. So he was looking at the same window as me. He saw an old lady. I couldn't see her. He described her as having a dark cardigan, a white blouse, short permed grey hair, in her 70s or 80s, I think he said. This was a week before we moved in 2004. Then the night that I moved in was the second sighting. And I think the thing that struck me a little bit from the second sighting was the fact that he basically said to me, he saw a lady in the front room sat on an invisible chair, was his description. And he's a very good friend of mine. He doesn't know the guy that I went to work with who saw the first sighting.
Ah.
So that chap was called Craig. I worked with him. Greg was a very good friend of mine who came around that night. There were six of us in the room. He was the only one to see this. And he saw an old lady sat on an invisible chair. But when I pulled him to one side and quizzed him on this and just said, what did this old lady look like, just out of interest? And he said, short grey permed hair, dark cardigan, white blouse, very piercing stare. And I forgot to mention that Craig actually said that on the first
Ah.
piece was she's got a very piercing stare. She looks like she doesn't want us outside the house, was his description. So
Okay.
when that
Yeah.
kind of happened, I was kind of sat there thinking two and two, maybe four, but I'm still, nothing's happened to me. I've not seen anything. But then as months and months go on, strange things start happening around the house. Voices, footsteps, doors opening and closing when nobody's there, door handles. I think the eye opener for me was seeing a door handle move, literally pull down, a spring-loaded door handle pull down in front of my own eyes when I'm sat with my wife. We both saw that. We saw the door open. I sort of shouted back to the door to say, hello, as if, is there somebody there? And the door handle snapped up, the door slammed shut, and I raced across to see it because at this point, this was only a few years ago, and I know now there's 6 different people that have seen this old lady, 7 different sightings. I've been here 20 years. I haven't seen her, but I've heard the voices, I've heard the footsteps, all sorts of things like that. And we've had some poltergeist activity in the house, which is
Right.
very, very strange. So yeah, seeing
What's
that
that
with my,
consist of? What's that when you say poltergeist activity? What sort of things was your
well,
experiencing, Liam?
obviously you've got that door handle piece. That's the
Yeah.
first thing that I saw with my own eyes that I can hand on heart say I saw that. I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
My wife was sat next to me. That happened. We've then got the first thing that was we kept finding American coins in the house.
Ah,
And
yeah.
this was very strange because it went over 4 days in essence. So we found the first one on a Friday night on the bedroom floor. Saturday night, I went to bed just after my wife walked in the bedroom, and same again, same place on the floor, same coin which I'd put in my bedside table the night prior. I don't have any coins in there. It's just a bedside table with some cufflinks and bits and bobs in, but there's nothing, no coins in there, especially not American ones. But on the first night, because of all this paranormal activity, I check things and try and debunk things before sort of hanging my hat on it.
Yeah.
This coin was it was a 2012 coin that I'd found on the floor. I'd picked it up, I put it in my top drawer. The next night on the Saturday, same thing. I walk in the bedroom, it's there. The Sunday, I was a little bit paranoid at this point. I hoovered the house. Now we're quite clean people. It's a nice house. It's a beautiful home. But I hoovered all the house myself to make sure there's nothing on the floors. And when I went to bed that night, slightly after my wife, she was asleep in bed as I walked up the stairs. But in the center of the stairs was an American coin, same date. I took it into the bedroom. I looked in the drawer. The coin wasn't there. I'm assuming it was the same coin. But at this point, I woke my wife and she sort of took it off me and said, what are you doing with this American coin? What's happening with it? And she's not a practical joker. She's not,
No.
if anything, this sort of stuff really freaks her out. She took it off me. I watched her put it on her bedside table. And I got into bed and I was Googling, why am I finding American 1 cent coins in my house. The next morning was the poltergeist activity, and I suppose you could say this is poltergeist activity, finding the coins, but
Yeah, yeah,
to
for
go in
sure.
the shower the next morning, knowing that that coin is on my wife's side of the bed, which I would have to walk around to get to.
Mm.
I literally got up, grabbed a towel, went in the shower on the Monday morning. I'm stood having a shower, and within 30 seconds, I'm thinking about the coin. If I'm being honest, I'm stood having a shower, I'm shampooing my hair, and I'm thinking, what is this coin that keeps appearing in my house? And as I'm doing that, there's a slap on the back of my calf, quite a hard slap as well. And I hear what sounds like a metallic object hitting the bath. And I knew straight away that it was going to be the coin. I looked down, picked it up. It's got the same date on it. I literally jumped out of the shower, excited to go and run and tell my wife, something's just happened. This coin's just been thrown at me in the shower. Very strange. And
Mm.
that's what gets slightly stranger, but it's a very long story, so I'll not
Okay,
go into
so
that side of things. But it's yeah, that sort of activity, which is
yeah,
hard to explain.
no, it's definitely poltergeist type
Logic.
of
Yeah.
activity. Whereabouts did it hit you? Did you say the coin actually?
Right on the back of the calf. So on the right hand side of my calf. So I'm stood. If you
Okay.
can imagine the shower room, it's not a huge room.
So
It's literally
there's no doors in the room in the
there's
shower. It's
a
not a shower cubicle. It's an open shower, is it? Yeah.
it's a shower in a bath. So it's
Oh, all right.
quite a
Okay.
big rain shower in a bath. It's a nice bathroom that's tiled all the way around. It's got one door in or out, and it's got a glass panel. So while you're stood in the shower, I'm stood facing the window. The door is
Yeah.
sort of to my left hand side, just behind me, and the coin hit me on the calf as I'm. So if anyone was to throw it, it had sort of this much space behind me
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hit me
Quite
with it.
accurately. That's what I
But
was
there's no,
getting at.
but there's nobody in the bathroom. I can see there's nobody in the
Yeah.
bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but a very strange.
That is
But
stereotypical paranormal poltergeist type stuff, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
coins are a
William,
favorite as well.
I
yeah,
wonder if you could tell me a little bit about, because I think this leads on nicely, a little bit about when you discovered. I don't need to go into too much detail about the book,
okay.
obviously, because people
No,
want
you're
to buy
okay.
it. But you found the knives lined up in
Yeah.
the kitchen, but simply because that's quite threatening in itself. And also the other thing that I found really fascinating, and I think Steve will find this intriguing, is when you captured the image. And I know unfortunately you don't have that image, the image of the fawn, I believe, in the television. Both of those
Yes.
encounters are typically poltergeist.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want
I
to
think
speak to us about that.
those two were quite different to what I think is this old lady that people are seeing in the house. It's probably
Yeah,
the two stories you picked out there that, well, there's three in the book that I think are different people to this old lady that doesn't seem to be, yes, she's got a piercing stare, but when people see her, nothing really happens. It's not like there is any activity other than the sighting. It's just a sighting.
yeah,
But the heavy footsteps we hear around the house, if you go back, the first story will have been that sighting in the TV. So I actually moved away from the house for about 8 or 9 months, a long, long time ago. This was 2008, I think it was, from memory. Moved out the house, I rented it to my brother and his fiance at the time because they needed more space, and I was going for a bit of a tough time. I just lost my best friend. I was 23, he was 22, bless him. I'd been at the funeral, and then my brother said he'd like to rent my house, and I was kind of like, perfect timing. I'll move to mum and dad's for a little bit. You can take the house on. And the day that I came back to the house, so I walked in 8 or 9 months not being in the property.
Hmm.
Um, as I walked in the house, it felt different. And people, myself and other people, have been in this house. I'm sat in it now. It doesn't feel like that now. It's not oppressive. It feels quite normal. But there are times when I could go downstairs for half an hour now. I could come back upstairs and walk in this room, and you will feel something different.
Hmm.
And people might say you're nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not the only one. It's not like I am the only person
No.
that feels this. And I think sort of for me to talk about this in the first place and bring it out in a book was quite a strange one because I work in quite a decent profession, should I say.
yeah,
I've worked in the motor trade for 25 years and I've got a decent profession. And talking about it, I thought I don't want people to think I'm not talking about this, but it's happened. I'm just telling a
Yeah.
tale of exactly what's happened in the house. So yeah, the first day back at the property, I've walked in. I felt quite like a feeling of somebody being in the room with you. Now, I'm not a religious person, but at this point, I know that things happen in the house. And I sat on the sofa and I looked across the room on my own. You could hear a pin drop in the house. And I just said, I can feel that somebody's here with me. Now, if you are here, I'm going to grab my camera phone. It's the old Panasonic flip phone.
Oh yes, yeah.
They were talking 2000. When will it have been that?
Mm.
Early 2000s, early to late 2000s. I grabbed the phone out. I took a photo of the room. And when I looked at the photo at first, I didn't see anything. So it just looked quite normal. I was quite disappointed because at the time I was literally saying, is this somebody in the house or is it Dan, which was my very good friend who'd passed away?
Hmm.
And I kind of, in my head, as you probably would yourself, you're thinking, I want to see my friend. I miss my friend, sort of thing.
Mm.
And then when I looked at the photo, I zoomed in. There were buttons on the camera. It wasn't one of these that you could pinch like nowadays with
Yes, yeah.
smartphones. I pressed the zoom in on the phone, and I got to the TV, and I could see something next to me. Now, it wasn't it was a figure of a person, but it was a sort of black mass. So I'm sat on the sofa. You can see me very clearly in the photo. I had a red Calvin Klein t-shirt on, probably too skin tight for me at the time. That was the fashion, and some baggy ripped jeans. You could see my facial expression looking kind of
Mm.
sort of worried. You could see everything about me in the TV reflection. But next to me, you could see a tall mass. Now I'm 6'4". This mass looked bigger than me. It looked,
And
I
was
don't
you
know.
sat down, Liam, at that
I
time?
was sat down. Yeah, this mass was stood next to me. It was kind of next to the sofa, next to me. It just stood next to me. It was big, sort of bigger than me at 6'4". I would say 6'9", 7 foot tall figure.
Oh.
But it was sort of stood like it was posing for the picture, literally looking straight forward. But there was no features on it. There's no eyes, mouth, but you could clearly see a head, shoulders, arms, legs, sort of stood like a Subbuteo figure, if you like, next to me. Um, I That's one of the only times I've ever sort of gone from the house. So I jumped up off the sofa, I saw this figure, I ran out the front door, I got in my car, drove to mum and dad's and said, look at this, what's that? What can you see there? And they were, what is it? How have you done that? I
Mm.
mean, this is times before I knew about Photoshop. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they were the same as me, just what is it? It's like it looks like a person stood next to you, but how do you explain that?
Yeah.
Um, a very, very well,
Yeah, that is an odd one. That
I
is a...
think the bit that I got to know. So I'm writing the second book at the minute, and I'm nearing the end of completing the final sort of edit with it. The bit that sort of shocked me a little bit was a local historian got in contact with me and said she loves the first book. She wants to do a bit of work with me and find out a bit of the history of the house. And she's managed to go through the local archives and find images of the family we believe that the old lady in the house is. One thing that I didn't know, I wasn't aware of until this historian contacted me, is that she was actually married to a chap who, Mr. Tompkins, I've called him in the book, is a unit of a man. He's
Oh,
he's very, very tall, very. I mean, the image I've got of him, which I can send you after this, you can certainly use the. You'll have to blur the face out 'cause it's from the. I don't know if it's National Archives or local archives,
Right.
mhm.
Okay. Lovely.
but he's a big guy. He looks very assertive. He's very strapping shoulders, very tall, and he died in the house, which I didn't find out until months ago. Um,
Do you know how old the house is, Liam, by the way?
yes, so it was built on March the 25th, 1936.
Oh, it's a 36. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there's
it's got
a lot of houses in the UK are around like that
yeah,
building. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's got a lot of history with
Yeah.
people living
Of
here and
course, when
things.
we go back further in time, it was quite normal for people to die in homes. This is what they don't realise, I suppose, in modern days, because people would go, oh, well, you die in a hospital. But back
Yeah,
then, you go for hospital for treatment, but they'd send you home to die. And that's what it
yeah,
was like throughout the 30s and
yeah,
40s, even up to the 50s. Bit different now, but it was quite a normal thing back then. Even births at home, to be honest with you. But of course, we we all talk about, oh well, yeah, do we live in a home that might somebody had died in? Well, yeah, it's likely. It can
Majority of people
happen.
will. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. But when people go and buy homes, sometimes people just buy homes more on a whim of a feeling. And we don't really know. I mean, people can look around home and they say like, oh yeah, it just feels nice, or it's got a bit of an unusual feel. Can't really put my finger on it. And there's quite a lot of homes which are sold just on that premises of those
100%.
feelings. But what are those feelings at the end of the day? I mean, is there imprinted energies around? I mean, the thing is that do you ever get the feeling that your hair goes up on your arms and the back of your neck, and you just feel something like that? Do you get incidents like that?
You do. You do. And other people do in the house as well. So it was interesting, actually. I had two local lads who were doing a podcast who asked me to be one of the episodes for their podcast, and they're literally 5 minutes down the road. So I invited them to the house, which at first they kind of refused, or they wanted to, but their partners wouldn't let them. Um, but they did eventually come around to the house, and we sat in the front room. I sat down, I had a beer with them, and just sort of tried to calm their nerves a little bit before we did a bit of a walk around the house, and everything felt fine. It felt very comfortable, cozy home. However, I came downstairs, and when I've just said to you a minute ago, it can change very quickly.
Mm.
I came downstairs. I walked back up to get my laptop. I said, let me just get my laptop. I want to show you this clip that we've got. And as I walked back in this room, which I'm in now, there's a chest of drawers behind me. I walked in through the door. I went to grab my laptop and I froze for a second. When you've just said about your hairs going up on your neck, and
Okay.
it was that kind of feeling. And I kind of just bent my head around the door. It was dark. Don't get me wrong. So there's probably an atmosphere with that side of things. I'm a logical person. I
Yeah.
try and explain it as best I can, but
Mm.
you could feel an oppressive feeling. And I grabbed the laptop. I went downstairs, and the amusing thing was, as I walked back into the kitchen, so I walked through the front room into the kitchen. I stood with the guys and said, we said earlier, you guys were saying it felt a bit different upstairs, and I said I couldn't feel it. I've just felt it while I was upstairs. I said, if you want to go up there now, we'll flip a coin and see which one of you can dare to go up there, which we actually did as well.
Yeah.
But as we were talking about this, there was one of my kids' toys went off in the front room, which can just be a mechanical glitch. I'm not daft.
Yeah.
Can be, but it was funny that I was just saying things appear to have changed up there, and just as I did, there was a toy went off in the front room, and it's not something that goes off. I've never heard it go off before. It's still there now. It's still got the same batteries in. It's not gone off since. But just little bits like that are glints into something weird's happening, and something sort of barrels on from that. It's not just one thing that happens generally. It's kind of a number of things that build up to something slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but that was amusing for them to hear that, because it certainly put the shivers up them, shall we say?
What was the situation with the knives? Because I know Marcus.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, I
Yeah.
didn't come back to that. So yeah, the knife situation was. So at the time I was living on my own. There's a lady who basically rented the room off me, and I threw a bit of a house party for her on that Saturday. A long story short, I woke up on the Sunday morning. A friend of mine was asleep on the sofa downstairs, called Seth, or called him Seth in the book. As I mentioned earlier, I've changed all the
Oh, yeah.
names, including mine, for the book, because I need
Yeah.
some sort of anonymity in this. Um, Seth was asleep downstairs, but he told me before I went to bed that night that he couldn't get a taxi. Can I sleep on the sofa? I'll leave first thing in the morning, so I've got work in the afternoon. And I said, yep, not a problem. That's fine. And I went to bed and left the keys in the back of the door downstairs. Now, on the Sunday when I woke at 9 o'clock, I was woken because I heard a taxi outside, a black cab, sort of burbling away outside the house. But I also heard him close the door with the keys in the back of it. It made quite a loud slamming noise.
Yes.
You could hear the keys jangling in the back. He'd not locked it, but it was 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I live in quite a nice area. I didn't think I'll go and lock the door. However, at 11 o'clock, I got up out of bed. I walked downstairs a little bit groggy. It had been a bit of a heavy day the day
Yeah.
before for a house party, you can probably imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I got to sort of halfway down the stairs, scratching my head, I looked down and saw that the door was ajar. So the front door at the bottom of the stairs is straight ahead of you, and it was slightly open. Certainly wasn't closed.
Mm.
I know I'd heard that close without doubt.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a UPVC door. It's not sort of an old wooden door. It's a UPVC door. Once it's shut, as you're well aware, it's shut. But I also know it wasn't locked. So I can't sit in front of you and say that this is paranormal, what I'm going to tell you now, because it potentially there's a 2 hour window where something could have happened that is very strange. But as I got to that door and opened it, I looked outside, and the lady who just rented the room, her handbag was outside, sort of strewn across the path at the top of my house. Sort of, sorry, at the top of the drive.
Mm.
It's quite a steep, pitted path going down to the road, and the handbag was there with all the contents on the floor. So I ran upstairs and I grabbed her and said, "I'm ever so sorry. I think we might have been robbed. I think somebody's broken into the house." And I brought her downstairs and I helped her pick up the contents of a bag. My car was still there, which was the first thing I kind of looked at. Is my car there? Yes, it is. Car
Yeah.
keys still there. But I picked up the bag with her, put it all back in the bag, and she looked at me and said, "This is weird. Nothing's missing." So if they have robbed us, they haven't taken anything from my bag, cigarettes, makeup, money, purse, everything's still there, keys. I then walked into the front room, sort of dreading what else had happened to the house. And as I looked up, it was probably a worse fear than you'd ever think. There were 5 knives in the floor. So
Stuck in the floor.
stuck in the floor. I mean, as in driven into the floor.
Are these pointy knives, like kitchen
These
knives?
are cooking knives. So these are my cooking knives.
Have they come from a block or are they from a
They've
drawer?
come from a block. So the block's normally in the kitchen, which it still was. So as I walked into the front room from the front door, there's a door from the hallway to the front room. I've walked into the front room and looked to my right. That's where the doorway to the kitchen is. The door's open. These knives are 5 knives in size order, pretty much at the same sort of measurements to each other across the foot of the door in oak floorboards. So these are the original oak floorboards from the 1930s that I've sanded and varnished meticulously. So I was quite angry at that. As a side note, I was quite angry at the fact that that had happened. But at the time, it was probably one of the most scary things that's happened in the house. But I didn't know if it's paranormal. Now, to put you in the picture, at that point, I grabbed hold of the lady behind me and just said, "You stay here. I'm going to walk around the house, make sure nobody's in here." Walked over the knives into the kitchen, checked in there. There were 2 cupboard doors open. There was a drawer open to the cutlery drawer. The only thing that was missing were the 5 knives out the block. That was it. Everything else was locked up. I walked back in and sort of sat down with her and said, "This has never happened before." I had to phone Seth to speak with him. I was quite angry at first because I thought it must be him. It's got to be him that's done it. Why would he do this? But I think talking about this after I've written this in the first book and talking about it with people, they kind of said, how deep were they into the floor? And they were a good 2 inches buried deep. They were sharp cooking knives, but they were 2 inches deep into an oak floorboard. To get them out, I'm quite a big lad, but I had to pull these knives out with some strength to get them out of the floor. So to put them in the floor, you'd probably need some sort of implement to hit them into the floor. And if you can bear in mind, my bedroom is 10 foot above where this is happening. And I've already been awake that morning. Probably would have woken me if somebody's hammering knives into a floor.
Sure, absolutely.
It was a strange one, but I will not sit in front of you and say that is 100% paranormal, because I can say that front door was not locked for 2 hours.
Well, I mean, like you say, it's certainly strange. I mean, it leads on to what I want to actually ask you about, really. About, you mentioned about being scared and the being changes of atmosphere. I mean, just as a bit of a backdrop to this, when I was younger, I wouldn't say I lived in a haunted house, but for about a year, I lived in a house where we had, similar to yourself, but just, we believe, one person or spirit. And we could hear footsteps, the dog had bark at an empty doorway. Nobody ever saw this presence. My mum thought she saw a lady once, but we never felt scared by it. We just got, like you were saying, you just kind of normal. Oh,
get on with it.
One evening, though, we were only about 12. Me and my friend were smoking cigarettes out the window, which we shouldn't have been, obviously. And we heard the door go. The door just came open and threw a cigarette out of the window. We thought, it's just a breeze. That's all it is. Then you heard footsteps. And then a crisp packet depresses as if someone stepped on it. But more than anything, for the first time, the only time, we felt absolutely terrified. For only about 10 seconds, it felt like 10 minutes. And then suddenly the atmosphere changed. And we just knew whatever this was, it had gone. And over the years, we've spoke about this with my friend. We've tried to rationalise that this was the sweet old lady that was in our house, but she was annoyed at us because it was smoking, and that's how
Yeah.
it felt. So, what my question is, do you think you've mentioned there's several spirits in the house anyway, but do you think it's how they are feeling results in how you're feeling, or do you think you're dealing with different spirits that are actually have
Well,
different temperaments?
it's a very good shout, that, to be fair, and I get the feeling you've been through because I was just trying to explain it. It's a hard feeling to explain. Yes, potentially, and I think a few people have brought this up with me since the release of the book 2 years ago. A few people have said, is it to do with females in the house? Because there's my wife, now that we've been married 5 years, she's seen the lady twice. That lady on the day, it was the first day she moved into the house. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened when females have just been in the house and then just left, or they've been there. And the weird thing is, like I say, nothing seems to, apart from the door handle and the coin being thrown at me, there's not a lot of stuff that's happened to me personally. There's a couple of things where I've heard voices. I've obviously heard the footsteps. A lot of people have heard those, and doors opening and closing when nobody's there. There's no windows open and no logical explanation to it. I genuinely don't know. I don't know the answers to this stuff. That's the weird thing. I don't know the answers to this.
I
With
don't
the
think
vo
anybody
with the
does, really.
No, they don't.
with the what were the voices? Were the voices male, female, or
It
could
was
you
a
work
male
out any?
voice. The male voice that I heard was coming from the staircase just over here, while I was in bed, that said, "Come here." It was like a loud whisper. There's nobody in the house. I thought I was being burgled at the time. The dog was on the stairs. The dog was wagging its tail. I genuinely thought I was being burgled.
Liam, I wonder if you can tell me, have you ever experienced anything else? I mean, I know you said you haven't experienced that much in the house, but I mean,
Yeah.
either at the house or when you were younger, such things as maybe UFOs or time slips or just really bizarre phenomena, anything of that nature at all?
Nothing before. So I bought this house when I was 19. I'm turning 14 next month. So nothing before I purchased this house. No. Um, Plenty since I've been here. And me personally, I would say I'm saying plenty. Yes, the footsteps and stuff we've just been talking about. Yes, we hear those all the time. Yes, last week we had a noise that sounded like somebody falling out of bed upstairs, and I mean a loud, loud bang, like somebody had just fallen out of bed.
Mm.
And there's just my wife, me, and my 2-year-old son downstairs. Silly things like that. That if other things hadn't happened,
Yeah.
and you hadn't known about the other stuff that's happened in the house, you'd probably just say, "Don't know what that is. It's just a weird noise that's happened in your house." But if you sort of piece things together, it tells more of a story throughout the years. And I'm not saying these things happen all the time, guys. This is,
Yeah.
it can literally go months without anything happening. But then we'll have, we call it the week of madness,
Yeah.
where things start to happen and then it just builds and builds and builds, and then something a little bit crazier happens. And the latest one was a very a strange, probably one of the strangest weeks I've had in the house. And I've just been writing about this for the second book, which is basically, I think it was a Tuesday it started on. Normal morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. Sun was coming through the curtains. It woke me up. At this point, my son was very young. He was still in the cot at the side of the bed. My wife was asleep next to me in the double bed. But I could hear a noise coming from the room, like a song. And it sounded like a xylophone. So it
Oh,
sounded
right.
like
Yeah, I
somebody,
remember that.
like a children's xylophone playing in the room. My first thoughts were, it's my phone. I do listen to podcasts and bits and bobs at night. So I thought it's just coming from my phone. Looked at that. No, there's nothing on my phone. I checked my work phone. The battery was dead. I walked round the bed to look at my wife's phone on the other side of the bed while she was still asleep. They were both still asleep next to me. Her phone, it wasn't coming from there. When I got round to that side of the room, I realized it wasn't coming from that side of the room. It was coming from my side of the room. And I walked back round. We have a fitted wardrobe on the wall next to the bed where I sleep. And all that's in there is clothes. So there's no toys. Yes, we have a child. I don't have a xylophone. I won't have one in the house after this. But we don't have any toys in there. It's just clothes and shoes. And as I opened the wardrobe doors, I could hear it coming from there. It was definitely coming from the wardrobe. Opened the doors. It stopped suddenly. That's what tends to happen when you investigate anything in this house. You investigate footsteps or anything, they stop when you go to them. It stopped, but then I heard a really guttural cough like somebody, like one of you two has stood next to me here, right into my left ear, really loud. So loud that I mean I froze at this point. Literally, I couldn't move. I was stood at the wardrobe, still doors in hand, couldn't move, and was just shouting my wife, who was still laid in bed behind me asleep, saying, "Wake up, please wake up, wake up, wake up." And she woke up eventually and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Not really. At this point, I'm still stood facing the wardrobe." And
Mm.
this went on for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday we had a day of rest, thankfully. And it ended on Sunday with a number of events that happened on that Sunday, which were just crazy. But this xylophone thing was 3 or 4 days of that happening, and my wife witnessing this, not just me. Just weird, really weird. And that's never played out before. That's never happened before. But yeah, we'll not have a xylophone in the house after that. I've had friends threatening to buy one for the little one's birthday, and I've said, nope, don't
Yeah.
do that. I won't have it.
I mean,
It's
Steve, what do you think? Because you investigated plenty of these cases and paranormal properties. What are your thoughts on this? Because it's fascinating stuff.
Well, I mean, when I listen to people, I look for sort of key things, which I know are represented by poltergeist disturbance. First off, is that it's not the first time I've come across where knives have been ploughed through things. One went was, right through a door, a house door. But what was interesting is that the analysis actually on the door showed that there was no blunt force stages. So this isn't something that is being banged in like this.
Gone straight in.
It's as if the knife materialized through it, which is a poltergeist type action. It's like an apport, but I mean, we've had apports which have been partially through the ceiling, over the years. So it's like, yes, they can materialize what you say midriff through something,
Yeah.
So, and when we conducted the analysis, you could see that it was just seemingly the knife had transitioned itself in position. But when looking where the actual went through the door, you can't see. This is a solid door, by the way. This is not a door which is some of the more cheaper doors which are hollow. This
Yeah.
is a solid door. It's an old door, and you could clearly see that there was no shunting of this because you can see under analysis the process of it going in like it hadn't. It was actually perfectly
Structurally
clean,
there.
which would mean that maybe the knife actually materialized in there. Another thing that they tend to do is size order. Now, I think you mentioned, Liam, here, size order. Now,
Yeah.
investigating a case in Yorkshire in 19, when was that? 89, I think it was. Yeah. They were having poltergeist disturbances. And what was interesting, they had a load of pans. And they had so many pans. It was literally, if I said go in there and get them out, you couldn't do this silently. It was absolutely an impossibility. But they used to come down and all the pans would be lined up. The handles would be facing the same direction. And what was really interesting is that you'd have the wok at the front and then size order of the pans. Like a sergeant major stood in front of her. It was just so weird. It was always the pans in all size order. And
Mm.
poltergeist phenomena, they do something a little bit more. It's not just random events. There's actually
Yeah.
thinking and mechanics behind it. So as soon as you mentioned him about this process of size order,
Yep.
there was a little thing going ding, in my mind. The when you talked about the handle going down, I've actually witnessed that myself. Even in my own home, I have a front door. It's a 5 lever lock system.
Yep.
So we literally saw it click, 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 and then open. And of course, when it opened, when the alarm is connected to it, it bleeps when the door opens past its contact. And we literally watched that happen. Bangs upstairs. We pursue those sometimes loud, so loud you don't know what's caused the sound.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a couple of incidents even last week, actually. So a couple of one upstairs and then another incident downstairs. So, yeah, they're weird and they're strange. But the poltergeist infestation process, when you talk about apports, because I don't keep them in the house. There's a good reason. I'll get to that at some point. But I don't keep apports in locations where I live. I relocate them straight away. But I had one first coin that turned up which was American coin, was a dime.
Okay.
And what was interesting is that this dime, it was only printed in one particular place in America, which I happened to be going to in about 3 or 4 months later, which I knew because I was lecturing there. But
Yeah.
there was only about 2,000 of these ever printed, so it was worth a bit of money, surprisingly, But I've still got it. I didn't put it on eBay, But coins are probably one of the most regular things that turn up, or items. Now, there's a couple of questions here. It's back to back sort of thing. The
Yeah.
first thing is, have you lost items, which like maybe keys or documents, things, but it's usually things of importance so that you'd recognize that they've been lost.
Yes. So
Really?
there's a huge story behind my granddad, bless him, passed away at 99 years old.
Wow.
A few
It's a
years
good
back now.
age.
He had a good innings, we say,
Yeah.
as Yorkshire folk. But he left me his watch. Now it's a 1960s Amiga watch. Basically, it's my prized possession. If
Mm.
we ever go anywhere of importance, I wear that watch. It doesn't even work anymore, and I've asked Amiga to have a look at it, and they want a ridiculous amount of money to look at it, but they want to replace all the parts, and I've just said, I don't
No.
want you to do that. I want to keep it original, but I just want it to work. But they won't do it. So I'm not bothered that it doesn't work. It just makes me feel that I'm closer to my granddad, who I was very close to at the time. So
Mm.
I wear it at only really big events. Now, this watch I kept in a box in my bedside table and would only wear it to these events. And it literally, other than my family, it is my most prized possession. I keep it there all the time. And like I say, it just comes out of good events. One particular night I went to put it on and it wasn't there. And I looked at my wife and said, where the hell's my granddad's watch? Like it's not there. It wasn't there for about, I think it's about 2 or 3 months. And I kept checking in different places, checking everywhere around the house, could not find this watch. I was
Turn up.
devastated. It's like losing my granddad again. I was
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
devastated. So much so, if we went on holiday, if we go on holiday, I'll say to my wife, look, everything's insured. Yes, we've got CCTV, we've got an alarm. The house is insured, but this watch is coming with me because that's the only thing I can't replace in the house.
Yeah,
That's how much it means to me.
yeah.
But after 2 or 3 months, I think we were going out for my wife's birthday at the time, that night for a meal. And very rare that we go out for a nice meal nowadays with a little one.
Yeah.
And I just said, I need to go and get my granddad's watch. And I said, oh, it's not there, is it? But I walked into the bedroom, opened the drawer, opened the box,
Yeah, there it was.
it's there. And I'd checked that box myself. I
Mm.
must have checked it a dozen times over the
Yeah.
couple of months. As I've said before, my wife's not a practical joker. She's not that kind of person, especially with something so sentimental as that.
Yeah.
Mm.
It wouldn't happen. But it was there. I've
Yeah.
now got a safe that I keep that watch in, and
It don't matter.
I still go to check. I still go in the safe to check that
Just
watch
gonna
is
say.
there.
Mm.
Every now and
Yeah.
again, I go in there to check that it's there, and it is still there.
Yeah, they can get him to, they can
Very
take him
strange.
out of safe. So the thing is, it's there's another one of those trigger things. That's why I asked the question, because
Yeah.
there are key elements that, there's just poltergeist phenomena just cannot help themselves do. And that is one of them. They usually do turn up, but you don't turn up while you're looking for them.
Oh,
You've got to wait. It'll keep the game going whilst you'll keep looking. So if you spent 3 weeks looking for it, you won't going to get it in 3 weeks. You got to literally let it go. Like, okay, I've just accepted. God knows when it's going to come back. And at that point, kind of game's up. It's like there's a mechanism. It's like a machine reacting, because poltergeist phenomenon is the most resourceful phenomenon in the world. It will only move things. It will only take things that you're gonna know it's taken. It's not going to do something accidentally, because everything takes an energy, so it's not going to waste stuff, by moving something or taking something that you might not have gone missing. So it's always got to be something of purpose to get the reaction back, because they're quite resourceful, this phenomenon. But it does sound to me, and you know what, without going into great detail, but just the key elements that you told me, if I was sitting down with anybody and telling me these key elements, I'd say, well, that is poltergeist infestation. Now, the ruling from the Society of Psychical Research that would state that you need a focus or an energy, that you need because they've been writing these things for a long time, saying, oh, yes, you have to have an adolescent in the home living there, and it feeds off them the energies, and, and sometimes it's more female than male. But it's not written in stone. So, and how old is there anybody living in the home actually
So
who's
my,
adolescent
my
age?
there's just myself, my wife, and my 2-year-old son. So my stepson's at university now. He lives in
All
Nottingham.
right, so 2-year-old is not going to do that. So again, it doesn't fit the bill. And how many times have we seen this, Marcus? You say people write these crazy things saying, "Oh yes, now we know it's all linked to children and adolescents and stuff, and it's their spent up energies. It's causing these PK things."
Yeah,
And then you realise, well, no, there's no energy. I mean, we've had it poltergeist disturbances in a home where we actually relocated the family to another place. So
yeah.
again, it just proves that these things aren't written in stone, but they're so clever, always listening,
Mhm.
You
always,
you've just
eavesdropping.
You've just pointed something out about the American coin, about your American coin that you found. I didn't
Yeah.
mention this, but the American coin that we found, so when I was Googling it, it was saying that it's somebody's coming to visit. It was mainly spiritual people saying somebody's coming to visit from America. Now, the week after I
Oh,
found the coin over that weekend, a good friend of mine who used to rent a room here, this room I'm in now, he used to rent this room for 4 years in my
oh,
house. He was coming back from America. He lived over there for 10 years. He was coming back to stop with us for a bit the week after we'd found this American coin. So that was strange
it's
for me to
weird,
read
isn't
that.
it?
Yeah,
It's like I say, it's this kind of there's a
sign.
thinking mechanism behind it, a machine
Yeah,
or something. Fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, I'd say absolutely. I mean, from what you're telling me, I'm saying, yep, this is poltergeist. But when you talk about this defining line between hauntings and poltergeist, because at first you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I've moved into possibly a haunted house.
mm,
But then you're thinking to yourself, well, that's kind of poltergeist activity. Are the two the same? Is it all one thing? Are they connected? Because there is many documents and research papers out there that like to divide. Oh no, it's a haunting. Oh no, it's poltergeist. But
mm,
really, to be honest with you, when you do the research, it's just one great big thing. It seems to be all connected as far as I'm concerned.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, well, that kind of leads me into another point, actually, Liam. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe you've mentioned you've had people, groups, organisations in to look at the property, probably
yeah,
more than
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
aware of. If I read it correctly, I believe at least one of these organisations suggested that, I hate the word, but for want of a better word, you have some kind of portal or gateway or
Yeah,
something like that
he
on the
said a
property,
vortex.
a
Yeah,
vortex. And,
yeah,
and this was responsible for allowing different entities. Could you tell me a bit about what they told you? Because I find that
yeah.
quite interesting, to be honest.
So I was looking for a good spiritualist medium. Now I am quite skeptical about these. I've had two mediums in the house now, and I've told them both. Well, to be fair, both of them have actually said to me, "You're quite a skeptic about this sort of stuff, aren't you?" When they've arrived at the house, which is quite amusing. But I've told them both. I wouldn't give them my name. I wouldn't give them my full name. I wouldn't give them the address. I'll give them a fake name, and I'll give them my telephone number and say, right, phone me when you get to my property or near the road, and I will direct you in because I don't want you going online and being able to find anything out. Not that I think they would be able to very quickly because I've dug so deep with this property now through this great historian that has helped me with the second book that I don't think you'd find anything straight away, but. I directed the first one into the property. He told me a lot of things that I've not written about that were very personal to me, that were home truths, that kind of had me thinking, how the hell does he know that? Unless he's Darren Brown or he is actually a spiritualist
Yeah,
medium,
yeah,
how does he know this? He told me a lot of stuff that I've not written about, that I've kept to myself. But then when he walked upstairs and walked in the master bedroom, which is where the lady's been seen now 3 times in that bay window by 3 different people, he stood there and sort of stepped back and said, "Whoa, I don't see this everywhere. There's a vortex in here." And I didn't know what he meant by this when he said it. Um, I was quite fresh faced into all this stuff. And I said, "What do you mean by a vortex? What does that mean?" He said, "Well, it's where spirits can come and go." He says, "You'll often hear," he says, "a lot of the time they're coming in the night. They'll walk through the night. You'll hear the footsteps, da 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 da." Which was lovely to say it's in the master bedroom, which is where me and my wife sleep. But I kind of just looked at him as if to say, we hear these footsteps. I mean, we sleep with the door closed to our bedroom because we hear these footsteps in the night and they aren't explainable. There'll be
mm,
people listening to this that will say, no, it must be, you'll be able to explain it. There's a window open, there's this open, there's that. The brand new windows in the house, the brand new doors, it's all quite airtight. Yes, you have ventilation in your house, everyone has to have it. Um, but there's no way you hear solid footsteps like we do. And we've got recordings of these as well. It's not like it's people hearing things, it's recorded evidence of these footsteps.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
strange. I don't know what these vortexes are. I've read about them since. I know a little bit about them, but supposedly a portal that are all around the world as these portals that
well,
people
yeah,
go.
I can
Steve,
probably
it'd be
go.
interesting to know what's in the actual bedrock of not the property, but the
Well, I mean,
actual
yeah,
ground itself.
yeah, the
With peace in mind.
geology is always a very important. I mean, what we know now is that the process of the entrance and exit points, which do take place, as far as I'm concerned, are like micro electron diffusion regions. It's exactly the same thing as electron diffusion regions, are just on a micro scale, where things come exit and entrance points, but it tend to be within the building, at some area in the building. Seems to be what you refer to as transitional point or X point, should we say, which are measurable by devices. But what you will measure is EMF. But it's not generated. This is where people get it wrong. They think that it's generating an electromagnetic energy where you're picking up an EMF. You're not. What you're actually picking up there is it's a gravity shift. It's a microgravity shift which resembles EMF. And that's what you're picking up on an EMF meter. But the thing is, though, is these micro X points, they've been monitored for quite some time, and these things do happen. But if you do have that, then you could end up having what is referred to as a traffic situation, is where that not necessarily are they tied to the location, but it's a process through, in a sense of speaking. So you might get things which you think, well, what's that got to do with the home? Or you might see something and you think, well, I don't know why that would be associated to my house.
Yeah.
That can happen in these areas where you've got these X points. So it's more transitional things, utilizing those, and they probably go through to other places around, you see. But with
That's what he was saying.
poltergeist,
That's
yeah,
what the chap was saying, that people are coming in here to go to other properties through this house.
well, yeah, in a sense of speaking, that's what kind of X points do. You mean if you have an entrance, you have an exit somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's two sides. It's like a tunnel effect, like a wormhole type thing, if you want to
Yeah.
consider that. There has to be an input and an output, but there is those locations that, in simplest terms, help magnify the apport formations of things that do not belong. Because the thing is, with the management process of poltergeist phenomena, it could be utilizing something where there are coins, American coins, and it simply just goes like that.
Mm.
So, I mean, have you ever had items that have disappeared and you've just not found them, or are they always relocated?
As far as I'm aware, no, nothing that I would like I say. I'm not kind of a materialistic person, so I don't know if maybe I have. I don't
Could be
know.
the tiniest
But
things,
I
though.
mean, like I
Yeah.
say, for instance, with regards to the watch, I knew that because that was something that was very, very precious to me. Probably the only material thing I'm that bothered about. But yeah, I'm not too sure on anything going missing and just
Yeah. So the watch became. I mean, what you got to refer this to? It's apported. It's
okay.
an apport. It's the watch is
I've never heard that
dematerialized.
before. So
Have you?
that's a new phrase to me. I've never heard that before.
Oh, an apport means it's apportation. There's the spontaneous arrival, such as your watch turned back, is an asportation, asport, and then it disappeared is an apportation, the apport. So
Mm.
it's one side to the other. Thing is, though, we can never we can't really. I mean, we've talked about this, Marcus, haven't we, before from the analysis,
Yeah.
confirm that the watch that arrived back is exactly the
It's the
same
same
watch
one.
left.
Okay, that's
That's the tricky bit
another
under
thing to think
analysis.
about. Yeah.
I mean, Liam,
Okay.
can I just ask you, because you're still in the house now,
Yeah.
and obviously you're writing a second book, which we'll speak about that in a minute. But I mean, you know, do you ever, do you ever wish that you could just make this all go away? I don't think you will, because I'd imagine that it opens your mind. But do you ever wish that you'd think, I wish I could have some normal life, nobody walking around my house? What are your feelings about that? Because to be in the center of this kind of thing for 20 years, that must
Yeah.
kind of grind you a little bit.
Long term.
It's asking me that question. I'm very intrigued in everything that's going on here. I kind of like it now. I've been literally, I mean, if you go back 5 years ago when I first started writing the first book, I wasn't that interested. I was interested in what was going on. It's interesting to talk to people about it. If you sat at work talking to somebody about what's happened the night before, if something weird's happened, talk to somebody about it. That was interesting. Um, it was just something to tell somebody else. Um, but if you asked my wife that same question, she would say I would move out tomorrow.
Right.
Um, for
Okay.
me, I love the place. It's my home. I've been here 20 years. It feels
This
like the
is it,
norm. It
exactly.
just feels like the norm. It doesn't feel
No.
strange to me. Don't get me wrong, there are times I'm scared.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm scared of the unknown more than anything. I'm scared of what I'm gonna. It could be a burglar in the house, for instance.
Absolutely.
That's the unknown that
More
you.
scary, isn't it?
That is
It
scary. That
probably
is.
is. It probably
Yeah.
is more scary. I don't know. I've not seen the lady, like I say, but I've been this close to the noises and the
Mhm.
shadows that we've seen under the door that I've been there for and tried to investigate them. And I want to see something. I want
This,
to see. I've
th-
seen the shadows. I've seen the door handle. I've seen the coin
yeah.
on the back of the leg after the event. I saw it hit the bottom of the bath. Um, but
I
yeah,
think
I'd
this is
like to
what
see
people don't
something.
get, though, isn't it, Liam? People don't get it because it's usually comments like, well, there's no way I'd be living there. I mean, if it
Oh
was
yeah,
all
yeah,
that was going on, I'd be out. I wouldn't be living there.
yeah,
These are comments coming from people that have never had those experiences. If
yeah,
it's your home,
yeah.
and I see this regularly when I'm dealing with people, and they'll stay there. It's their home, and they are intrigued a little bit, but they're still scared. But they're
Yeah.
still intrigued, you know.
Um,
But people just don't get that. They think, oh well, if that was me, I would be out of there. Well, yeah, oh, very good, but it's not you, and you're not in that situation. When you are in those situations,
yeah,
you don't just run away from your home. You might be intrigued a little bit, scared at first, but intrigued, and that's the realism one because people make those comments that, oh well, I don't believe it because why would you stay there? Why would you live there? I've
yeah,
had clients live in these buildings of high activity for many years,
yeah.
you know, and people
If
just don't
anything, I
get
run
it.
towards it.
Well,
If
yeah.
something happens, I run towards it because I want to know what it is. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
intrigued to know what it is.
Good to be like that.
And
Yeah.
I've got
I
to the stage
completely
now
agree.
where if something does happen, I'll speak out and say, if you're doing that, if it is you in the game, if that is something paranormal going, if that's a spirit, if it's a ghost of the house, come and show yourself to me. And it's still not happened yet, but
No.
I'm
Well, it's
hoping
ongoing. It's
I hope
ongoing,
at
as they
some
say.
stage it does.
I mean, speaking of speaking out, I think it's been a good way to almost wrap this up. But I mean, I find this both authentic, unusual, and important. The book, The Lady in the Bay Window, is going to be a play in the books
Mm,
coming up.
yeah,
Now, yeah, we don't often see ghost stories as plays, or certainly not modern ghost stories anyway,
No.
So that's great to see that. But also, certainly how I'm thinking about it, this is going to take a subject which is not often spoken about to a much wider audience. Now, undoubtedly, you're going to get people there that are into the paranormal, but you're going to get people there that are just there for entertainment. And there's a good
yeah,
chance they'll come away from that thinking, what is all that about? So I don't know if you view it like that, but you're certainly kind of taking this stuff to the masses almost. So can you tell me a bit about how that came about as well? Because
yeah, of course, of
good
course,
stuff.
yeah. So I mean, just to sort of go back to the start very quickly, the book that I wrote was my mom was very ill with cancer, and I kind of started writing this when she was 2 years into a sort of treatment at the time. She battled for 5 years, bless her, and lost her
Oh,
battle back in May 23, bless her. So she never got to see the final edited book on October the 31st when it was launched 23. But me writing for 3 years then about all this stuff that's happened was a good friend of mine that loved hearing about the stuff that happens in the house and said, you should write about this. It'd make a lot of money. And I went to my mom and said, if I do write about it, will you pick a charity? So all the money that I wanted to raise about £2,500, it's just gone over £46,000
Wow.
for the cancer charity that my mom sort of wanted it to go to, who looked after her, a place called Cavendish
oh,
Cancer Care, which is brilliant.
yeah.
I never expected that. And when you say going to the masses, that's worldwide. It's Amazon's number one bestseller in paranormal. It's done really well.
Yeah.
Really proud of that. Then people come and knock on your door. One of which was Blumhouse, who owned the Halloween franchise, and
Yes.
Bob,
Right.
they wanted to get
Yeah.
involved with buying TV and film rights. Um, that unfortunately was at the time when all the writers' strikes were happening. So
Okay.
that didn't come to fruition, but it was amazing to speak to them. When I say if I said to you I've met a lot of interest, I mean you guys, I wouldn't have met you guys if I hadn't written the book.
Yeah.
The stuff would still be going on in my house, but I wouldn't have met you guys. Um, but yeah, the playwrights, so two local playwrights that do a bit of stand-up comedy. They do a bit of they do some fantastic local plays with local casts and things. They got in contact and said, "We love the book. We think we could make a fantastic play out of this." And I went to see Danny Robbins play 222
Right.
last year, and I thought to myself, you know what, it could potentially make a really good play. They've got a company called Coalface Productions. I've met with the cast the other week. We did the first sit down sort of rehearsal read around, which I've never done anything like that before. It's very interesting to sit there, and I'm probably as excited as a lot of people that's read the book. I want to sit in the audience and watch this play. I can't wait to see it come to life. The guys who've written it are brilliant. The dialogue, in essence, they've taken the story, made it right for the stage, and they've written the dialogue as a Yorkshire lad. They've written the dialogue in there, and it's got some great one-liners in it, but it's also got the scare factor. It's got the serious factor of it as well, of what is actually happening in the house. But it's great to see, because you would have seen back in my early 20s, probably not as funny now, but you would have heard some good one-liners when we were talking as friends in the house back then. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm glad it's doing well, because I mean, there's been a few interesting ones. When the Lights Went Out was based on Left at Eastgate, the movie.
Yeah,
it had that kind of twang to it in regarding the location, the way people talked back then, and that sort of a thing. So, of course, on the success of that, I can imagine them. I've dealt with that company actually, so I can imagine them sort of seeing interest. And then, of course, the writer's strikes came along. It doesn't mean though it's not. It's still not on the table.
It's not dead in the water. And
I'll tell you what happens during the writing strikes. The stuff still gets produced. The still stuff keeps coming in.
Yeah.
And what happens is it piles up. So by the time they go right back down to where they need to be, it could be a year, 2 years later. That's the problem when these writer strikes happen, because I've been in that boat. So, but never say never, because
100%.
It's stories like that, and it's about real people and the stories that they really like. They don't want all the Hollywoodized stuff, but they're really interested in realism of the stories from people's experiences, and I can see that actually doing quite well. Be honest with
I'd love it. I mean, there are other film directors interested. One of which is coming to one of the plays with me. He wants to meet the cast and stuff, which will be really interesting. So, I'm just really excited about it. And I hope, to be fair, the plays go really well, and these guys can travel a little bit with it. Because I mean, the ones we've got are in and around Sheffield. We've got three theatres, 6 nights booked so far. But if it goes well, obviously that can go further.
I mean, I can't wait till that's available. I think the tickets, I mean, we'll ask you about when the tickets are available soon, before we wrap up, because, I think me and my wife would certainly enjoy an evening.
Good to see you there. Be great to see you. I'll be there, sat in the audience.
I love it. I love the theatre. You don't get many paranormal stuff in the theatre.
No, you don't. You don't, and I enjoy it as well.
So I think you're right as well, what you say about people. I mean, I'm involved in another writing project, which is aimed at TV, but we were literally speaking about this the other day. Approaching playhouses, approaching local, playhouses, because you never know what's in the audience, and it's a good way for that. It's a good demonstration of it. So 100%. You're in exactly the right space, I think. There, Liam. Look, thank you very much for joining us. I know we're getting on.
No, I've enjoyed it.
It's been fascinating speaking with you. Now I know you've got another book, and we just spoke about the play. But what else have you got going on? 30 seconds. It's yours, my friend. The floor for speak about what you've got going on.
So the second book, I'm literally in the final edit of getting that. So that's going to be out for October the 31st. There is a website, theladyinthebaywindow.com. So if you want to check out a little bit of info on that, you can do so. And you can find me on Facebook under the same name, Lady in the Bay Window, William Seagrave, to find out more. And there's all sorts of videos on there. Once I've done the second book and we've got the play out there and all that sort of stuff, I'm going to follow in you guys' footsteps. I think I'm going to start a little podcast.
Okay.
So I'm working on potentially building a little podcast studio, so I can
good.
do a little bit of that. There's so many people that's reached out to me, so many interesting people that have told me stories that are similar to mine through writing the book, that I think their stories need to be told. So I'd like to interview them and find out about their stories and find out the similarities. There's
a lot out there that doesn't.
So many. So I could write, literally, I've got that many different people. I could write 3 or 4 books on all the stuff that people told me. But I think it'd be better coming across in this sort of element, like you guys are talking to me now. I think it'd come across really well on a podcast. So I'm going to have a go at that, I think.
Good.
Well, let us know when that launches.
We'll do as much as we can to help. Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
No problem. No, thank you. I mean, Steve, it's been fascinating.
Yeah,
It's in between us, this
I
property.
love
Maybe
it.
we
I
should
love
take a look,
these.
you know?
I love to just sit back and wait to hear those little things. I go, yeah, okay, I recognize that. Because,
Yeah.
the problem is when you're working in this field, like Jackie, my partner, says she's fed up with me bringing my work home with me. And that is kind of the situation sometimes. And I get all sorts of stuff all the time. But then I'm immersed in this 24/7. And, I'm bringing probably stuff home. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I experience the things that you're talking about. But, mine are short lived. They seem to come, they seem to go, But when you're talking a long period of time, that's what intrigues me. Are we really dealing with a haunted house? Are we dealing with a haunted location? Or it's something tied to the people that have lived in that house? Who knows? Well, that's what the big mystery is.
It is. It is, and I'll keep on asking out until I find out.
Yeah,
Hopefully
sure.
today.
It's going to be exciting times ahead for you, Liam.
Yeah,
Liam, thank you
definitely.
ever so much for
Thank
joining
you
me.
guys for having me,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Fascinating.
Marcus, thank you.
No problem at all. And thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you follow us on social media. Also, check out the Anomaly Project Podcast.com for further articles, news, and information. Until next time, goodbye and take care.